There are 7 things Capital One will never tell you, and understanding them can save you years of bashing your head against the wall. So if you ever wondered why your credit limit just refuses to grow, or why certain Capital One cards seem completely out of reach, no matter how well you manage your credit, you're not alone. You can be a loyal customer, perfect payment history, multiple years of on-time usage, and still get no love from Capital One. They rarely reward loyalty the way other banks do. So coming up, you're going to see exactly why your Capital One card refuses to grow and why it's not your fault. You'll also learn why Capital One insists on using the system even when it frustrates loyal customers. Plus, I'll share the hard-to-find Capital One upgrade portal below this video, the same page that's changed the game for so many community members. It's helped people, ditch their starter cards with annual fees and move into premium options like the Venture X card, all without a single hard pull. And I'll leave a link to that portal inside of my free credit card pre-approval master list. Just search the words product change to find it. And I update this every single month, and it has over 100 lenders that you can get pre-approved for without a hard credit pull. And I'll drop a link to that below so that you can see, which ones you already qualify for. Now, the first thing Capital One won't tell you is that they pull from all 3 credit bureaus. So most banks pull your credit report from just one bureau. That's Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion, depending on your location or the product that you're applying for. Capital One, on the other hand, they pull all 3. That means when you hit apply, you're giving them, permission to perform a triple hard inquiry, one from each bureau, and that hurts. Even though a single hard inquiry might only knock a few points off your score, multiple pulls hit all 3 bureaus separately. For example, if all 3 record, let's say, a 10-point drop, that's roughly 30 points just gone across your reports depending on your credit profile. That might not sound like much, but it can matter if you're planning, let's say, a mortgage or an auto loan or a new business funding application anytime soon. Now, why do they do that? Well, I would say the simple fact is it's risk control. Most banks let you kind of game the system by targeting the bureau with the fewest recent inquiries, a strategy also known as credit stacking. But Capital One shuts that down by checking all 3. It's their way of kind of covering every angle and making sure no one slips through the cracks. But if you still want a Capital One card, there are 2 smarter ways to play it. So first, you could use their pre-approval tool. That's just a soft pull, and users report roughly a 90% accuracy rate on whether you'll be actually approved or not. And then 2, you can consider upgrading instead of applying, fresh. Many people have successfully upgraded from, let's say, a Quicksilver card to the Venture X like I did without triggering a hard pull at all. Most of us can't stand their system, but understanding how Capital One plays the game helps you avoid unnecessary hits to your credit while still getting the card that you want. Now, the second thing Capital One will not tell you is that they have a secret bucketing system. So, have you ever wondered why your Capital One credit limits feel frozen, no matter how responsible that you've been? You might be stuck in one of their internal buckets. Now, that's a system that secretly determines how far that your card can grow. So here's how it works, right? When you're approved for a Capital One card, the company assigns that specific card to a bucket based on your credit profile at that exact moment. So your score, your history, and overall risk level is included in that. So that bucket sets both your starting credit limit and how much your credit limit can ever grow from there. It's not personal, it's just how their system is built. Now, Capital One uses this system to manage risk and fund their lending model through something called Comet, or Capital One Multi-Asset Execution Trust. So essentially, they bundle your credit card accounts into this asset-backed security that are sold to investors. Now, once your card is grouped into one of those bundles, it's locked in place, which is why getting big limit increases later on down the line can be nearly impossible sometimes. And here's a few clear signs that you're in a low tier bucket. First, you started with a low limit, typically under $1,000, or you've only received tiny limit increases over time, or none at all. So think like $100 here, $250 there. Or your other cards have massive limits now, but Capital One still keeps you capped off. So here's the reality. A lot of people think product changing their way up can fix the problem, but it usually doesn't. That's because your card is bucketed, not you. So the only time your product change might help is if you're jumping from a lower tier card to something higher like a Quicksilver to a Venture X card. So moving sideways, like from a platinum to a quick silver card, won't move the needle much. If that's your situation, focus on improving your scores and then reapply for a fresh Capital One card. Now, for most people, the best move is to wait until your credit profile is stronger, and then you can aim for Capital One's higher tier cards like that Venture X or the Savor Rewards card. These start with higher limits and they grow faster, and they actually reflect where your credit stands right now, not where it was when you first applied. Next, Capital One won't tell you that Savor cards play by a completely different set of rules. So when it comes to Capital One's Savor lineup, the usual playbook doesn't apply. From dozens of data points that I've seen over the years, spanning, the older Savor and Savor One cards to the newly rebranded version, one thing is clear. These cards operate in their own ecosystem. And historically, cardholders haven't been able to upgrade to a Savor card from any other Capital One product. It's extremely rare to see the Savor line offered as a path for a product change. For whatever reason, Capital One treats the Savor brand as a completely separate product line, kind of disconnected from the rest of the portfolio. And from my own experience, a few years back when I had the Savor card with a $95 annual fee, I tried downgrading to the Savor One. The rep immediately told me it wasn't possible. And that's when it clicked for me. Capital One keeps a tight hold on the Savor lineup. Whether it's upgrades or downgrades or pre-approvals, the Saber cards play by their own rules, and understanding that can save you time, frustration, and just unnecessary hard pulls. Then Capital One isn't going to tell you that the 5 card limit isn't as clear as you think. So you probably heard that Capital One has a 5 card limit. But here's the truth. That number is not set in stone. It's more of a guideline than a hard rule. For example, if you hold an entry level product like let's say the platinum or the quick silver secured card, you're typically capped at just 2 cards total. Yeah, just two. But those lower tier cards count against your overall limit and can kind of block you from opening more until you close one out. But once you move into Capital One's unsecured or premium cards, that ceiling starts to rise to around 5 cards. And even then, the system isn't perfectly consistent. So here's what I've seen. Cardholders with strong credit, long histories, or higher internal scores sometimes manage to squeeze in a 6 card with Capital One. So while the 5 card rule is a solid benchmark, think of it more like a flexible framework. It all depends on your mix of cards, your history with Capital One, and how their internal system views your overall risk. Next, Capital One reports business card activity to your personal credit. So here's something a lot of new people don't realize, and it's one of the biggest downsides of using Capital One business cards. So your business activity shows up on your personal credit report. That might not sound like a big deal at first to some of you until you carry a balance on your business and that spending fluctuates. Suddenly, those ups and downs start taking your personal credit score, and we all hate it. So imagine trying to qualify for a mortgage, an auto loan, or a personal credit card and being denied, not because of your personal debt, but because your business card was reporting a high balance that month. And it gets worse. By reporting business uses to your personal credit, Capital One completely blurs the line between your personal and business finances. And that defeats one of the main benefits of having a business card in the first place, keeping those two worlds completely separate. So if you're serious about building business credit independently from your personal credit profile, you may want to avoid choosing Capital One for their business cards. Another thing they never tell you is that every decision comes from a computer. And I would say at this point, Capital One feels less like a bank and more like a tech company that just happens to issue credit cards. Nearly every major decision, whether it's an approval, denial, a credit limit increase, is made entirely by an algorithm. No human review, no manual reconsideration, just data. Other banks will sometimes give you a shot, to call in, explain your situation, or ask for a second look. But Capital One, not so much. They don't even have a reconsideration line. So once that system decides, that's it. You're done. It's really part of their DNA now. Capital One runs on automation analytics and risk models. You can see it even in their job market. On their career side alone, there are well over 1,400 roles, and most of them are roles for tech jobs. Many of them are focused on cloud infrastructure, data machine learning, and cybersecurity. And to be fair, some of that tech does make life easier. Their virtual assistant, their virtual card numbers, and the Chrome extension are genuinely useful tools that I've used over the years. But that same technology driven mindset also means almost no human decisions and more reliance on what the computer says that you deserve. So when it comes to Capital One, you got to remember that you're not negotiating with a banker, you're negotiating with an algorithm. The next thing they're not going to tell you is that they have a hidden upgrade portal that most people don't even know about. And this might be one of the most underrated Capital One hacks out there, and that's the hidden, pre-approval landing page. The link to this portal has helped hundreds of people, and likely thousands by now, since I first started sharing it. It's helped them upgrade their cards and remove annual fees and get more frequent and larger credit limit increases and move into better cards like the Venture X with premium features and more rewards. So if you've ever been sitting on a starter card like the Capital One Platinum or an older Quicksilver card with a small annual fee like $39, this portal can easily help you move up to better cards, including higher end options like that Venture X card without hurting your credit score. And this matters because upgrading through the product change, way doesn't trigger a triple hard inquiry, so there's no impact to your credit score. It also keeps your same account history, which helps preserve your average age of accounts. But here's a few things you got to know before even trying this method. You'll need at least 6 months of solid account history with responsible usage. Your interest rate, credit limit, and account number will stay the exact same. Only your security code and expiration date change. You won't qualify for new cardholder bonuses after upgrading, since it's technically the same account. If your card was stuck in a lower bucket, in a lot of cases, upgrading won't even move you out of that bucket. That limit structure stays the same. Now, you can check your eligibility anytime by logging in through Capital One's official product change portal. And I'm going to leave a link to this page inside of my free credit card pre-approval master list. Remember, hit the link below. And when you get there, just search the words product change. But listen, remember, if you use this upgrade, make sure to update any recurring payments with your new card details once it arrives. But Capital One isn't all bad. I literally just got a $10,000 credit limit increase with them, and now my new limit is $39,000. I know, it's crazy. So you got to check out the next video right here to learn the strange hack that I discovered that triggered back-to-back approvals and why my biggest wins came during low spend months, sometimes after spending less than $300. Thank you for watching.